It's Wednesday, my dude.
Hey, welcome to another installment of Catching Up. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake.
This week with the who is one of our favorite guest boys?
Me.
Bruce Willis.
Well, I mean, you're more than just a guest, Chris,
Aw.
and Bruce is always here in spirit, Jake. But though I have to say, it's striking distance, Bruce, and not the last Boy Scout, Bruce.
Yeah.
I
saw The Last Boy Scout. Not so good.
Yeah, God. What's a good off-the-wall Bruce Willis movie? Like, that isn't Die Hard, that isn't The Fifth Element, that isn't...
Unbreakable?
Breakables? Yeah, that's a good one. Tears of the Sun? No, okay.
Red?
The first one. The first Red. Because you get Carl Urban and you get Helen Mirren with a machine gun.
Anyway, who is our guest?
It's Kyle Starks.
Ah!
He's one of our favorites because he's here and he's back. And Rock Candy Mountain, his Kung Fu Hobo Epic Magnum Opus, is out in comic book stores everywhere, the second volume, on Wednesday, April 11th. The first volume's out now. That means you can get all the complete Rock Candy Mountain experience next week. But, let's let Kyle talk about it. And coming back for his four-peat, that puts him on the same level. That there is nobody now that's been on the show more than Kyle Starks. Oh, by the way, yeah, coming back for his four-peat is Kyle Starks. We've had people that have been on as many times, but Kyle, you have entered the elite realm that has only been on welcome back.
I got to get that fifth appearance ASAP, boys.
You do. There is. I will tease. We have prepared a gift basket for people that have been on 5 times. It's honest to God, it exists. There are things that you'll like.
No, I got it. I got to get that. I got to get a quick project out after the one we're talking about today, I guess.
Fair enough. I know you got things percolating that you can't quite talk about, but yeah, you're always welcome on. But welcome. Yeah.
I feel like who's Steve Martin and Alec Baldwin, Paul Simon, like a real elite company.
Chevy Chase as a guest, and I think is Justin Timberlake part of the SNL elite?
What, John Goodman? Is John Goodman one too?
I feel like.
I think Goodman might be one too. And Kyle Starks.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's the vein I want to be spoken with from here on out.
John Goodman. All right, we can make. I remember you were. Was it an Oliver Platt fan?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Oliver Platt. Name a better supporting actor. That didn't go on to have some sort of major career.
William H. Mason.
You know what the thing is? You're going to go Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Well,
no, he had a career. Sorry, he wasn't Oliver Platt. No, he didn't spend his career being the sixth man of film and television.
Brian Dennehy.
Brian Dennehy's not charming. I'm sorry, Brian, if you're listening. Oliver Platt, you want to hang out with?
Yeah.
Brian Dennehy? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Patton Oswalt has a great bit about hanging out with him.
Many years ago it was Philip Seymour Hoffman, Tony Shalhoub, and Oliver Platt. Shalhoub got Monk, so I feel like it took him out of that elite group of just great supporting actors. But he's right next to Oliver Platt. I'll take Tony Shalhoub and Oliver Platt in literally anything. Even a porn. I'd watch that porn.
What about William H. Macy?
No, he's got
had a huge career.
Yeah, he's got Shameless.
He's Mystery Man. Come on.
I'm sorry,
huge.
Guys. I'm sorry.
He was the head of the hospital in ER when he was supposed to be a supporting actor. He did Fargo as his last supporting role was Fargo, in which he's pretty crucial. And then immediately after that, he got a bunch of main roles. He was the cooler. I think that was the name of the movie. He was the main guy in.
Yeah,
Macy's great. Macy's great because you can put it like Estate in Maine. Thank you. Yes, please. He's always good whenever he shows up, but he's had too many things where he was at the beginning of the list of names.
Yeah.
That's never getting top billing, guys. And if he is, that's a bad movie.
Okay.
Oliver Platt always gets the and starring Oliver Platt.
Yeah, classic.
That's the guys I'm talking about. The and starring so and so.
So okay. While we're on the topic of acting and everything, here we are talking Rock Candy Mountain Volume 2, out in comic book stores everywhere on Wednesday, April 11th. The finale to your kung fu hobo epic, Satan, multiple warring factions, some of the most crazy fights that you've ever rendered. One of the most emotional. The first issue in this volume is the most emotional thing you've ever written. Who would you cast as Jackson?
You know what? I think Schweitzer had a really good suggestion, and I can't remember who it was. Who would you cast?
It has to be somebody unassuming, so you don't think that no one man can stop him.
John Cusack.
No, not Cusack. You know what? The thing is, you can maybe tell more from issue 1 than later, is that I based him generally on Lee Marvin. The Lee Marvin very dead, so it can't be Lee Marvin.
Was it because of Emperor of the North?
It's Emperor of the North opens with Lee Marvin beating up a gang of hobos in a hobo jungle with a chicken.
He's not making that up, by the way. That's an actual film.
No, I'm not. I'm not making it up. And literally, the resisting of having a chicken fight was huge. I was like, man. And the thing is, that's too good. Like, somebody did that. It's too good to have someone beat someone up with an actual chicken.
You could always call it. It's not ripping it off if you call it an homage. Tarantino's gotten away with it for years.
Listen, I'm down with Tarantino's system, but that's like a little too on the nose. And also, like, someone's like, "Hey, what's a good hobo thing in pop culture?" Like, that's the answer. Lee Marvin beat up a bunch of dudes with a chicken.
Okay.
I wish I could remember who Schweitzer said he thought would be, because you want it to be sort of an everyman, but who's got you know who I think it was Liam Neeson.
Liam Neeson, but he's the dude. Like, after like Taken and after.
I know, but he still has that. Let's not talk about late Taken. Was it Taken 4? Have you seen that? Was there 4 of them or 3 of them?
There's 3 of them in a TV show.
The last one feels like that dude owed somebody money. I mean, now he's the guy. Like, but at one point, he could play like that dad, that's sort of a little bit older, but still legitimately tough. Like, if I did this book in like '93, I'd be like, we gotta get Bruce Willis in there.
Oh yeah,
gotta get Bruce Willis in there. But you need someone who's like approximately like late 30s, early 40s, like not old even by Hollywood.
Like Liam Neeson
anymore.
Yeah.
What about like
William Macy?
What about like Tom Hardy?
I think Tom Hardy's too tough.
Yeah. He puts on too muscle.
It can't be someone who looks traditionally tough because he's fueled by magic.
I think Tom Hardy would make a good Satan in this.
No, you know who I think would make a good Satan is I'm gonna say his name wrong, but Ralph Fiennes.
Oh, Ray Fiennes.
Yeah, Ralph. He would be great because he's got that super cultured but also super patronizing thing down.
Have you seen In Bruges?
Yes.
So you've seen him call his wife an inanimate fucking object in the heat of discourse.
It's my favorite insult.
Yeah. But
very good.
So something I've noticed reading this, Rock Candy Mountain is how far one man will go for his family. Sex Castle is about how someone's actions can affect, them as a parent and the kid that they bring up or the children that they bring up.
Yeah. Parental responsibility and individual choices.
Right.
Yeah.
And you could even argue Rick and Morty. And I feel like, this is the 4th time we've had you on, Kyle, and I feel like this is the first time I'm actually like invoking Rick and Morty, even though you've been writing Rick and Morty the entire time.
Like 2 years now.
Yeah. There's a family aspect to Rick and Morty too. It all makes sense now.
Yeah.
Everything you're writing about.
I mean,
it all comes from a love of family.
I mean, I think Well, look, I didn't make Rick and Morty, so I can't take responsibility for the subtones or whatever of that thing. But I feel like it's part of why maybe I'm very suited to writing it, because I think family stuff's real important. I definitely draw from life, and I sort of try to deal with those sub themes that are important to me, that are interesting to me, and that add a level of depth to these stories. I like family stuff.
Yeah, because without spoiling anything, I was reading the liner notes to the end of Rock Candy Mountain, where you talk about the genesis of the series and your start in the comic career, and of course how if there's anything that I don't want to say how the book ends, of course, but like that's a tearjerker in the best kind of ways. That's like not like what's a sad tearjerker, Jake? The crying game.
It's happy.
Yeah, but it's the Field of Dreams. Happy because you're crying in Field of Dreams because you're happy that Kevin Costner got that one last chance. Just like at the end of Rock Candy Mountain, you're crying because it's a happy ending.
Yeah, I was shooting for that. I shoot for people crying a lot in this book. I wanted tears of laughter, and tears of sadness, and maybe a couple tears of horniness.
Well, okay.
I don't think I landed the last one, but
I got tears. I got tears from how great the action was and ass kickery that happened throughout this series.
What's your favorite action onomatopoeia that you employed?
In Rock Candy Mountain, or all together?
Maybe all. I mean, is it in Rock Candy Mountain?
Yeah, I'm not gonna remember. Like, I really like. God, guys, you put me on the fucking spot.
Asking the tough questions.
It's not even like the thing is like I can't even think of. The thing is, I just got back from my 4th trip in like 4 weeks, so my brain's a little mushy. On the train, Jackson does Shinsuke Nakamura's finishing move.
Yes.
And the sound effect is Bomaye, which is the name of his finisher, which I'm pretty pleased with. I'm always a big fan of someone getting hit or punched and the sound effect being like bitch. I think in Sex Castle, I have him, someone gets knee to the face and it says Ong Bok for sure. And I'm pretty sure there's like a lot of people getting hit, and it says like "fuck you," because I think like the thing is I just never really cared that much about sound effects, and I just thought, well, you can put whatever you want in there because it's just like expressing like a sense, you know what I mean? Like there's like, oh, what's the sound of someone getting hit in the balls? I don't know. Like it probably varies on the type of shoe and whose balls. So I think it's funnier just to put like ouchie when you kick someone in the balls as the sound effect. I did not realize like this has turned out to be something that people like are into with my writing until recently, and now I feel like some degree of pressure. The book I'm working on right now, there's a lot of people getting shot in the head in the first issue, and I'm trying to make all the I don't know if this is going to stay, but in the moment, like, I think it's real funny, is to have every time someone gets shot, the sound effect will be a reference to a movie where someone's head exploded comically. So, like, Scanners would be one of them.
That's amazing.
I definitely wrote one as Cantaloupe, which I don't know if that tracks, but it's very funny to me. So we'll see how that sticks. But I feel like I just feel like sound effects, especially if they're hand drawn, they're part of the action. Like they could say anything.
Well, it's always a delight trying to read whatever you concoct next when somebody gets like
fucked is probably one of my favorites.
Which is one that's in both Sex Castle and Rock Candy Mountain. That's a good one.
It's like FUCK apostrophe T, right?
Yeah. That just says it all.
That's You mentioned you were fresh off the road. I was wondering because the last time you and I crossed paths was in Seattle, and you had just done your first international show since then. I was wondering how that was your first time doing Emerald City, and that was your first time doing an international show. I was wondering how those were and what the response was like.
Everyone loves Rick and Morty everywhere. That's my answer to that. Yeah, I mean they're at this point, like my traveling stuff is all almost entirely promoting Rick and Morty stuff. And the fans are super enthusiastic. The Mexican fans were wildly enthusiastic. I had the largest line I've ever had. I had the most requests to have pictures taken with me. It was pretty crazy. Those dudes love Rick and Morty, and it shows you like how dense I am. Is that I didn't factor. I mean, like it's not an unknown fact to me, but I didn't consider it going in. Is like the protagonist for that series is of Mexican descent. His name's Rick Sanchez. Like, of course they love Rick and Morty. Like the representation of Mexicans in pop culture, especially American pop culture, is pretty slim unless it's a pigeonholed show for that. Mm-hmm. I was sort of unprepared for like I do like sketch for different shows. I'll do sketch covers, and other shows I have these sketch cards I get out, and I was like, well, like I want to do something everyone can afford, and so I did these sketch cards. And normally it's a range of dudes. Like people want to try to trump me on like characters. Don't do that, by the way. That's a terrible game. I don't like it. But so it's like, oh, Poopy Butthole, or oh, Mr. Meeseeks, or like a whole slew.
Reverse giraffe.
Was literally, yeah, don't do it. Photography Velociraptor. It was in Mexico. It was literally 99% Ricks. I did for sure one Mr. Poopy Butthole, and I can't remember another one. And I think I did something like 60 of those cards.
Damn.
It was insane. But the fans are great, man. Like, as an experience, especially if you have a massive ego like I do, like you couldn't ask for something better. My wife did, however, get very sick almost right away. So the trip wasn't quite as fun for anyone. In fact, I think almost everyone on the trip got sick in different ways. So it could have been, better, but, you got to take care of your sickies. So.
Of course.
Again, but it was for an international trip, like the fans, you can ask for something better. I learned a lot. Customs is terrible. Don't do it. I don't know how you avoid it, but it sucks. It's the worst.
Yeah. I mean, did you at least get some like prodigious Mexican food and see the pyramids while you were down there?
Well, we climbed the pyramid on basically the first day we were down there, mm-hmm. Which is why wife wanted to go, and wife climbed the pyramid, and like that's something you can check off of a list. I don't know if anyone's ever going to ask, like, hey, what's the oldest thing you ever climbed? Because I could be like, oh, that pyramid in Mexico. What's your answer? And they'd be like, I don't know. Courthouse, your grandma.
Woo!
Yeah, it was crazy. Emerald City was great, too. Emerald City, wherever I was sitting on the floor, moved whenever people walked by. And I don't know if you've been to Emerald City, but a lot of people walk by. So it's kind of getting motion sickness at Emerald City. But outside of that, that show was great. I think RePop is on. I'm not disparaging any other promoter because I can say good things about. Literally, I've had almost no bad experience with the show. But I think RePop they handle those big shows really, really well. They're always clean. The crowds move nicely. You know where people are, or at least you know where they're going to be generally. I thought it was a cool show. I'm looking forward to doing Emerald City again next year.
Yeah, I mean Seattle. Unlike the other bigger comic shows we do, like San Diego and New York, I can actually like breathe almost the entire time. Really, the entire time I'm doing the Seattle show floor. Whereas New York, as soon as you go out into the wild, it's just like if you have claustrophobia, it's like why would you ever do New York Comic Con?
New York was a little rough, but I feel like how difficult it is to manage just the logistics of that. And I think with that many people, and especially in like Artist Alley being so tight. I just did a show. I don't want to name the show, but they sort of rearranged how it was set up, and because of that, it was causing like a ton of like actual gridlock. If you wanted to get from the celebrities to the other part, like there was a stoppage. Like you literally sort of stopped on the way in or out, and you could tell like that was so frustrating to people that they weren't spending money because they were just mad. They just wanted to get in and out. And I think like New York avoids that. Like everyone's moving, you know.
They might.
And
not,
I think that's the secret. You might be moving slowly, but you know you're going to get there like probably in a reasonable time.
Yeah, and it might not necessarily be the route you want to take to get to somewhere, but you'll get. It's like living in New York. I remember the last time you were on the show, you were perplexed at the at New York salads with infinite toppings. Listen,
that's a normal salad bar. You know what else I was perplexed? I love New York Comic Con. That it's fiscally the best show I ever had. You know what? There's a bunch of people on like actual like Razor scooters, and I don't know how your city can have such a high number of Razor scooters, and act like it's cool. You know? Yeah. Don't act like you're cool to me, New York. I saw the Razor scooters inside of you.
Everybody's got that.
Why are you downtown on a Razor scooter? You're a grown man with a denim jacket on, a denim jacket and a fanny pack, and you're Razor scootering. I saw about 17 of those guys.
So, with with Rock Candy Mountain, it was always. I think you and I had talked about this like at some function up in Seattle where we drank all of their like cucumber water. But that aside, you had always kind of plotted Rock Candy Mountain for a tight 8 with the room to breathe if you wanted.
Yeah, I've had a fair amount of people like whenever they go, oh, it's the end, and they give me like sort of the sad eyes, which is as a creator awesome. Like I'm into that sexually, but it's like I don't know. It's like when I approached, I'm like, oh, it's done. That's it. Like that's what I wanted to do, and I wonder if those people go, this poor man is lying to us. Like he just doesn't want us to know of his failure. But when I approached them, I said I'd like to do 8 issues, and I think whoever I've speaking to, I think was Eric was even like he's like you don't want to make it an ongoing. It's like man, like I'm not Brian K. Vaughan. Like I don't think you would just go, well, I'm going to do an ongoing now in the state of comics in 2017. In fact, I knew 8 issues was going to be a stretch, but for me to tell the story I wanted to tell in terms of sales, and that's another discussion entirely. I might have goofed myself by announcing Volume 2 as the finale with those last couple issues, because I think people might have just been like, "Oh, we'll trade weight, not buy those issues." But 8 issues was exactly what I needed. If it turned into Saga, I could have stretched out some middle stuff for a while, and probably at that point I had a theoretical part 2. But even that part 2, I'm not like, gosh, I got to do that part 2. Like I decided, well, if it gets popular, I should have some sort of plan. But the original plan was 8. Nothing got left out at all. And it's exactly what I wanted, exactly what I planned. It would have been nice to do 15, I guess. It would have been nice for it to just be wildly, wildly popular. But shockingly, the weird hobo book with the devil in it wasn't blasting off shelves in stores, I guess. Hopefully it's blasting off bookshelves.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking to an image creator that was also in Seattle that was like, we do like singles like outside of the first issue. It doesn't do that hot. Does fair to middling at best. But once that trade comes out, especially at the lower price point, that's when they start to gain traction. Especially now that like Image is doing more stuff with libraries and more bookstore outreach and that sort of thing. Yeah,
the library stuff's gonna be great. Yeah, man. I mean, I think Image's model isn't not even their model, man. It's just the way the industry is that issue number 1 sells great always. The first trade sells great always. The sort of trade-off on the creator side is like, well, it sells great, but it sells for half as much as a normal book. So it's selling great sort of equals out to like a normal amount of sales. I said I've not seen my numbers, so I can't say. I might be like wildly pleased. But I think, a $10 trade is easy to take a stab on, and everyone wants number 1s. That's comics right now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
All people want is number 1s. But I think if you were a Kyle Starks or a Kyle Starks approximation, which is to say by no means a household name, I think probably the best way to do it is 5 issues, which is if I'm going to do a series, that's going to be my window. 5 issues, 1 trade. I sort of wish I waited on Rock Candy Mountain to do just a collection of all of it at once.
Kind of like what you had done with Sex Castle?
Yeah, except for that I would have had those 8 issues leading into it. And I'm definitely going to talk about maybe doing some sort of hardcover collection down the road, because I think the series would greatly benefit from that. Because it's supposed to be read in one. It's supposed to be read in one sitting. I remember doing all the press for Volume 1. It's like, oh, the first arc is complete, and I never said that. It's kind of half of the first arc. The first arc is 8 issues. Because if it's the end of the first arc, it doesn't make any sense. There's no real end point. They just get out of prison, they get mad at each other. It's that's not the end of an arc. The end of an arc is there's some sort of conclusion, and there wasn't one. Boy, I'm bringing it down, guys.
Well,
I feel like I'm bringing it down.
Well, I do like that you kick off arc 2, and it made sense from, if we're talking a storytelling or pacing standpoint, you kick off arc 2 or arc 1 part 5 with a flashback. It's an origin story, and that's
it's the answers to all the questions that were posed. Well, not all of them, but the majority.
Certainly.
In the first half.
Yeah. So I always thought that was a good, you had kind of had this high intensity moment because, here's a question. What is your proudest fight, or at least your favorite fight? Because if it's a Kyle Starks joint, there's going to be fists thrown. Sometimes bullets will fly. Sometimes dude will take a hammer to the face. What is your personal favorite fight, either to conceive or to put on the page across these 8 issues?
My favorite fight. Man, there's a couple good ones. My initial response for my favorite action sequence in the whole thing is when the devil kicks a hobo and then that's so hard he splits in 2. That's my favorite action sequence. But there's several fights. I like Jackson versus the Nazis a lot. I like Trang versus Jackson on the train because it shows Trang is just very good at fighting, but he's still not good. It's just shocking to Jackson.
That someone's almost that good enough to beat him 1-on-1, or at least stand toe to toe with him.
Well, or he does enough to be perplexing.
Yeah.
I really honestly, as I work through, I really like the climax fight a lot. Even though it's pretty brief, there's that immediate twist that makes it a really good fight. And then Pomona gets involved. Everyone gets involved, and it turns into I think a relatively emotional moment especially for Jackson. If I would have had 32 pages in that last issue, I wanted to have a full-on 100 cat versus Babs fight. I didn't want it to be basically off camera like it is in the book. Because those 2 dudes can go, and that would have been because the Devil versus Jackson is weighted, and anyone fighting Jackson is weighted in a way which is just well, how will this be interesting? Which was a great challenge for me. But 100 cat versus Babs would have been a traditional Kyle Starks fight. It would have been 2 dudes going at it, which would have been great. I love Babs. Babs beating up Jackson's pretty great, but not much of a fight because that's how it works. I don't know, man. What's the bad fight I have in there? That devil fight in issue 3 is so good.
Yeah.
Fuck, Jackson fights a prison. He fights an entire prison in issue 4.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm real proud. I did real good on that book. I'm real proud of Rock Candy Mountain. I can objectively rank everything I did, everything I've done. I know I know some of it's not as good as the other, but in my head, every time I read Sex Castle, when I reread it, I'm like, man, Sex Castle is great. There's nothing I would change. There's not one thing I would change, not even the art. And the art's almost 5 years old now, I think. Sex Castle is the standard I set for myself, but it's an unrealistic one because for whatever reason, I didn't have to cut anything out of it to make it work. And that's not how writing works. You always have to move things around and get rid of something you don't want to. Or you have to just leave something out entirely because there's no space. And Sex Castle, probably because I self-published it, I wasn't worried about page count. It's exactly right. And I feel like if Sex Castle is one, it's number one, then Rat Candy Mountain as a group, 1 through 8, is, especially if you do it in one sitting, because I think that's the way my stories are meant to be read, is like 1B. It's right below Sex Castle.
Which had you, because again, in the liner notes, you talk about kind of coming up with the idea of this kind of crazy kung fu hobo comic, like on like New Year's Day or kind of shortly after, your original day job kind of comes to a close. Like, how did it all kind of like, at what moment, what was the lightning bolt moment where what's the connective, like, where does the snowball start and how does it gain momentum? Where is like, oh, this happens and then this happens and then the devil shows up, or like how did that all kind of, how did this kind of spring from your brain?
Yeah. So I was actually working on Kill Them All, which is an Oni book, which came out last year and has sold out. Go to second printing. I'm not bragging. I'm bragging. I was actually sort of working on that book. I knew the job that I had was what I call a vanilla job, which is slightly patronizing, but I don't mean it that way. But the job that I thought was going to be my career, my good union job that was paying for my health insurance, I knew was coming to an end, and I had been working on Kill Them All. I didn't know what was going to happen with it, so I was sort of in between. And I think it would have been like November of 15, something like that. I remember like deciding like I really doing a disservice to myself for not watching like any of the like martial arts films, like not watching any of those, because there's a whole world of action movies, and I'm so distant from it right now because again it was like 3 years ago. But like especially like the Indian action movies, the Korean action movies are like fucking hot right now. Anyway, there's a whole world of action cinema. Like I was doing myself a disservice because I love watching people punch each other fictionally so much, not in real life, just fictionally. Right. You have to be able to do like an unrealistic jump kick for me to really like perk up. And so I was watching a lot of the classics, and I sort of ran across this genre of martial arts films called the wuxia films. And the hard definition on the internet is different than the definition that I formed watching several of them, which was that they were always sort of these journey movies where someone was going from point A to point B, either to deliver something or to get somewhere or to find someone at the end. And they fought along the way, of course, because that's what you do in that type of movie, thank God. And there's always like a super light, supernatural element that no one ever seems that concerned about. Like they'd be going along in this perfectly normal movie and there'd be like some sort of demon oracle in the woods. And you do the demon oracle and then the movie returns to what it was. And I was really fixated, and I'm sure like this will be a trend. I was really fixated on what the Western American version of that type of film would be. And I thought about it, like, well, what's like the most traditional journey, like cross-country journey. And I went through a couple of things, but it's like, man, it's riding the rails. It's riding the rails that during World War II and post-World War II, when America was sort of becoming great, which probably isn't accurate. I'm sure that's super like idealized by me. But that's sort of the point where it's like, we became a world power and like we were the, kings of industry and blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, man, hobos. And I think like when I first thought it, I thought, wouldn't it be funny if hobos fought? But I was like, well, no, I might do all this research, which you do, guys. You can't just make up your period stuff. And I hate period movies too. I hate period everything, but I knew like that was the time it had to be set. I read all the books on hobos. There's only like 7 books. I read them all. And I became really fascinated with this community in this period of time that's completely not completely unrecorded, but for all intents, like there's very little out there. It's uncelebrated. It became a joke. And like the truth of it being, I think I said this the last time I was on, but like, the truth of it was that the majority of the people who were hobos were itinerant workers. Like they chose to go on the road to go find work, especially after the Great Depression, because train travel had became like a major facet of American society. So you could jump a train to go get a job. Like you could leave. I wish I could remember this statistic. Like it used for X number of years, no one worked past like 15 miles outside their home, like because it would take them too long. It would take them forever, right? So anyway, it was itinerant workers, and most of it, especially after World War One and World War Two, were like ex-vets. Like these were guys who fought for our country, who came back and probably more than not were PTSD'd and just couldn't acclimate to normal society. So they jumped on these trains, man, to go dig ditches in California one week, and then to go work in an orchard the next week. And I think it's really romantic. I think it's a genuinely interesting genre, and I think it's a unappreciated community in especially American history. And it all came together. It's like, well, if you're going to go from point A to point B and you're a hobo, what should you be looking for? It should be Rock Candy Mountain, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, and if you're looking for Rock Candy Mountain, well, who's the bad guy? And it's like, oh, hobo. Like, I went through all the stuff that's in the book, but in the end, it's like, well, if you're trying to find the back door into heaven, like probably the devil, right? And then they'll sold your soul. It all just fell into pieces. Sex Castle is the same way. Like a bunch of pieces. Like I opened a puzzle box and I threw the pieces up and they just landed all in place. And Rock Candy Mountain was a little bit more work than that, but all the pieces came together. And like I said, I'm so proud of that book, man. I think it's funny, and I think it's great action, which I think is what comics are great at. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I nailed all the emotional stuff. That it really has a little bit of everything, except for its hobos. I feel like if it wasn't hobos, people would love it, but I think they will. I think once the word gets out, I feel like I've made something that will either be tragically underappreciated, or I'll have like a nice like cult hit for years to come, hopefully.
I don't think the only other like American archetype I can think of would be cowboys, and it just wouldn't work as well,
Yeah, I think that was another thing. It's like, man, what's a good archetype? Like pirates, cowboys, ninjas. No one wants to see any of that crap. Yeah. Everyone's tired of that stuff.
I think one of my
everyone's tired of that stuff. And then I thought, you know what? If the hobo's bindle was a bow staff, that'd be awesome. I did that. I did that, guys.
I guess you were mentioning doing the research for Rock Candy Mountain. The big research for Sex Castle was just watching Commando, every single Jean-Claude Van Damme film. Seagal shows up.
I didn't have to watch any of that stuff. It's in my blood. It's my DNA. It's just like it's Schwarzenegger in that green vest from Commando.
Yeah, I mean,
all my blood cells are just like it's just like little Charles Bronsons running through darkened streets.
Our very own Jake has recently been on a Death Wish kick. I was wondering, is the
that was a deep intake of air, if you can hear it. Death Wish. Ask the question. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was gonna say, is the pinnacle of that franchise the end of Death Wish 3, where he takes out the big bad with the bazooka?
I don't know, man. Like those movies are a little rough. There are certain like action franchises. Oh man, I feel like every time I open my mouth, I'm gonna get myself in trouble now. Like, have you seen POWs? Has anyone seen a Chuck Norris movie? Like, he wouldn't. I feel like he shouldn't be as big a star as he is. Like, from his movies, like I think his TV work, like, sign me up, man. That guy's TV stuff, like, good for him. Bronson's best movie outside of Dirty Dozen or whatever, but his best 80s action tough guy movie is Murphy's Law. That's a good one.
Oh wow.
That's the one I say, if you like Charles Bronson, you want to see a good one, Murphy's Law. Because I think those Death Wishes are a little bit, they're so hammy. Mm. And I think for a lot of people, that's the attraction, but man, Charles Bronson's a good actor. It's kind of unfortunate to see him in those fucking hammy ass movies, man. Watch Murphy's Law. That's a good one.
Yeah, those movies are rough as shit.
Did you end up
finishing?
That's what I'm
saying. My pop is listen, look, I'm in probably the diminishing camp that Bruce Willis can basically do no wrong. I watched some movies I don't know if they were just made by fever dreams by Bruce Willis and never went to theater. They just showed up in the ether of my mind. They were so bad, but Bruce Willis is always great. It's man, I kind of want to see that new one. But also it's
I strangely enjoyed it. I strangely enjoyed because I have I have a love-hate relationship with Bruce Willis, and like it's because like every time I check Vudu, he has a new movie, and so sometimes for fun I'll just refresh the page 100 times, and there's 100 new crappy Bruce Willis movies that pop
That's
up.
what I'm saying. Like in the last 10 years, he's made 7,000 movies.
For real. It's he's rivaling Nick Cage, but like, and I don't love Eli Roth. Like he seems like a nice guy, but I don't like his movies. But there's something about like I don't even know if saying enjoying the Death Wish movies, but I had recently read the book it was based on, and that book is so different than what we get with Charles Bronson and even Death Sentence with Kevin Bacon, which is a little bit closer. But like, it's weird because like Bruce Willis hasn't been really starring like A-list, like been doing like starring in Hollywood movies that have been coming out, like Looper and what the fuck else? What's like a more recent one he's been in?
Cold Light of Day?
No, Jesus. But yeah, anyway, so it was fun seeing Bruce Willis on the big screen again, and when I saw it in the theater, it was like on a cheap day, but like surprisingly, it was like pretty packed. And the crowd was going fucking nuts. Like the movie started and everyone was like, oh, okay. And then when he starts like killing bad guys, at one point this lady, like there's a scene in the movie where he just like shoots someone like 5 or 6 times. And it's like out of nowhere. And this lady just yelled in the back, hit him again, like really loud.
I love it.
And I
gotta go see it.
And I remember I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. Like forget all other kind of things. It's just Bruce Willis. Like, and they do, and they do actually a pretty good. They do a pretty good job of like somewhat you believing in the beginning that he wouldn't kick someone's ass. Like he's not a pushover, but he's like, no, I'm a.
I think they do that with Death Wish too. Like Charles Bronson's like a sweet old man, sort of in the first one.
I mean, they do the best
like
they can.
Tottering old fellow.
They do the best they can because like everything else he's ever been in, he's fucking destroying everybody. Yeah. So like when you see him at first, and they're like, you're a bleeding heart liberal, Paul. And he's like, oh, yeah, definitely am. You're like, no, you're not, you fuck. Like, you've killed everybody in every movie ever made before this. So, like, he kind of has that going against him.
One of the few that actually escapes in The Great
Yeah,
Escape.
yeah. But, yeah, I mean, they do that in... There's a scene in the new Death Wish where this guy, like, loses his shit on Bruce Willis at, like, his daughter's soccer game. And I'm, like, just thinking of, like... being programmed that like, oh, Bruce Willis is gonna fuck this guy up,
yeah,
and we're
like,
oh, wait,
striking distance. Bruce Willis.
Yeah, he's supposed
John
to.
McClane's about to stand up for his daughter. Was gonna happen.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, no, and his like wife's like, oh, what an asshole that guy is, and he's like, it's okay. And so then like, they do a pretty good job of him like, this is I think believing that Bruce Willis doesn't know how to fire a movie gun is like one of the best things that the new Death Wish does, because you're like, he has such a great I'm gonna shoot you in the face look. Like he has that great like stone cold. He does it so like The Fifth Element. There's like they could be just
I know exactly
forever.
the face you're talking about.
Yeah, and he earns that face in this movie because like he's. I have
to see it.
Yeah, and I don't want to hype it. I feel like I'm hyping it up too much now for you. But like,
listen, you might know my standards are crazy low.
I think it was enjoyable, and I went in with the lowest expectations, and it made me fall back in love with Bruce Willis so much that I bought season 1 and 2 of Moonlighting recently off Amazon. So.
Moonlighting's interesting.
It is really interesting. Like they break like the fourth wall, and they really kind of like it's a really fun, crazy show, and he is like insanely good on that show. Like
you know what he is? Wildly charismatic.
Yeah, I'm so used to like the 7,000 movies of him just being like not even stoic, just bored. And then I watched
two Bruce Willis.
Yeah, I watched the pilot, which is basically a movie, like an hour and a half, pilot for Moonlighting. And he shows up the first time. He's like this fast-talking, like charming, handsome,
Return of Bruno Bruce Willis.
He's like playing harmonica, I think, in the pilot too. Like that's what Sybil Shepherd's like. Oh fuck, he plays the harmonica.
And I play harmonica. How come I don't get any Sybil Shepherd?
Yeah, well, I don't know. But
because she already had Bruno.
Yeah. But no, that show is surprising me. Like I know it, everyone. Like I'm super late to that party, but it's like fucking fun as hell, man. That show, it's so much fun.
Yeah, I think if you go like Bruce, like it's all these movies are now, but if you watch like any of like the post Moonlighting Bruce Willis movies, even like Blind Date, which is generally panned, like you can just see like there's no question like this dude's legit, like out the gate.
Yeah.
He's one of those, like George Clooney, man. He's like George Clooney. If George Clooney just did balls out action movies instead of all the choices he's made.
One fine
That would
day.
be, they're the same. It's right. George Clooney was like, you know what? I don't want to end up being another Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
I should do Sicario or whatever. What was that movie he did about translators? I don't know.
Was that Syriana?
Oh, the one where he gets his fingernails
Yeah,
pulled out?
that's the one. That's it.
Got him the
Like
Academy.
if Bruce Willis was in Up in the Air, that'd be a different movie.
Oh, shit. No, you're fired. And he just fucking goes nuts. Strangles someone through a laptop.
Interestingly, Bruce Willis and Intolerable Cruelty would have been the exact same movie. I don't know what that means.
Oh, man. Yeah, no, I could talk about Bruce for hours. Because, like, I left
I love it.
I left Death Wish and I was like, fuck yeah, man. I was like, I don't know why.
I'm going to see it now.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know why I was such in a bum mood about Bruce Willis. I mean, he's kind of like, I don't know. Like, I remember just being like, oh, he's somewhat charming. Like, there's cracks of charming in Death Wish. And I was like, all right, cool.
The Bruce Willis of old.
The Bruce Willis of old.
Bruce Willis, Die Hard 4.
I like him, man. I'm always happy to see him show up, always.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, so.
I mean, like I said, I'm probably in the minority of that, but I'm always happy to see him. I've never hated a Bruce Willis performance because they're always the same. I mean, that's not I'm not saying an insult. Like, I feel the same way about Al Pacino. He's played the same character for the last 25 years.
Oh, yeah, he's been stuck for
but
a while.
But it's like, here's the thing. That guy's got those eyes and he's yelling at me all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Bruce Willis is just like cool and collected, and someone's going to get shot.
So
and then he's going to say something pithy, cool, and I'm going to love it.
Well, here's the thing that's crazy about Bruce Willis, and especially like yippee-ki-yay motherfucker, is like, what other catchphrase has become a catchphrase that was already a catchphrase by adding a curse word to it? Like, it's like, you know, like, that's genius.
True.
That's fucking great. I mean, I think Frank Miller tried it with Hi-Yo Goddamn Silver in The Dark Knight Returns. That's the only time I can think of like an old like westerny cowboy catchphrase.
Shaken, not fucking
keep an eye out for my new book where my number one character keeps saying, "Did I do that, cocksuckers?"
I remember we joked, but maybe we didn't joke that about the possibility of you creating a book that was just called like Fight Town, and it would just be
Fight Town is like the default setting for any book I write. Like, I'm like, well, it can't just be about fighting. Every time. It can't be just about fighting. I should church it up a little bit.
Well, there was like at the finale of Rock Candy Mountain to bring it back just a little bit. There's like, it's like the biggest, like it's the doozy of a it's everybody that's ever existed just like in the world just fighting.
Yeah.
And it's just like
Train Yard War.
Yeah, if I had to imagine like what Fight Town would be, it would be that on like like it would be entire neighborhoods, like the beginning of Big Trouble in Little China, just going to town on everybody, and it would be like the greatest thing. It would just like block to block Kyle Stark's fights with all the onomatopoeia filling up like cityscapes.
Just David Addison running around kicking the shit out of everybody.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
You're like writing down the notes. You know,
yeah.
Speaking of like of like 80s action, I'm surprised you never mentioned this one, Jake. You never asked Kyle what his stance was on RoboCop.
Oh shit, yeah. What's your stance on RoboCop?
All right, well, hold on, because here's the thing. This is a stance I take quite seriously. Is that RoboCop is not traditionally an 80s action film because it has sci-fi elements to it. Just as like if we were gonna list like the best 80s action movies, I would not put Predator or RoboCop on that list. I wouldn't put Total Recall on that list. I wouldn't put Running Man because they're action oriented, but they're also sci-fi. So it's like I feel like sci-fi they're genre pieces first, right?
Mm-hmm.
That being said, RoboCop's great. A man gets a bucket of acid poured on him and runs around for like 17 minutes. Like he runs off the camera and then he comes back later.
Like we forget about him.
Next time you see him, you forget about him, and then he shows up again and he gets hit by a car. That's a movie. That's amazing. Have you seen? I'm gonna find it right now. Have you seen those? There was like a group of film dudes. I'm gonna say this all wrong because I'm dumb. That were doing like a scene by scene. Like remake of RoboCop, but they were breaking it up so like different groups did different parts.
Oh no, that's amazing.
You hear me? What I'm talking about?
No, but I mean that sounds amazing though.
Find it. They did RoboCop, and the scene, the I gotta find it. Anyway, someone smarter than me find this thing where these groups of dudes remade it shot by shot. And the scene where RoboCop shoots that dude in the dick, which is like fucking A+, through the dress, through the dick. Come on, man. That's so Kyle Starks.
It is.
I love the shit out of it. But they did that scene, and like the dick shooting goes on for no joke, like 15 minutes. There's like 100 dicks. And you can tell, like, they're like, guys, we're only going to give you $300. And they look at each other and go, how many fake dicks can we get for $300? Because it's just like 15 minutes of dicks being exploded. It's one of the best fucking things I've ever seen. And it's one of those jokes where, like, you're right at the point where you're like, okay, like, I get it, guys. Like, you've done it enough. They do it like 10 more times and it's just funny again.
Well, now I'm just thinking of like all of my favorite moments from that movie, but with like Kyle Stark's onomatopoeia. So like, do you get shot in the dick and it's like balls or dicked or what's his face getting hit? If I could ever have a piece commissioned by you, it would be the dude, the mutant man being hit by the car. The guy going, ah, and it just says fucked as he gets just destroyed by the car. RoboCop's nowhere to be found in the fucking piece. It's just dude from ER getting crushed and exploded by a car and said fucked.
Yeah, let's do it.
Kyle, I believe I was able to...
Someone find that thing. I can't find it on YouTube.
I believe I was able to find it down, track it down. It's titled Our RoboCop Remake. Our is in possessive, not, time. But reading through an IO9 article talking about it, that sounds like what it's what you were talking about.
Yeah, it's amazing. I highly recommend it. Unless you're like triggered by male genitalia, then do not watch it. Or do watch it if the decimation of male genitalia would fix whatever triggers you. Then definitely watch it.
Exposure therapy, literally. But the official geek out stance of on RoboCop is that it's
God's favorite movie.
Yes.
Yep. The perfect movie that is RoboCop.
It's very good.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I don't know if I'm a Predator guy through and through.
Oh yeah, that's great too.
And I think I'd put for sort of sci-fi action. I think I would put.
I honestly,
I don't know.
This is going to put me on the outs.
Schwarzenegger really biases me.
This is going to put me on the outs with literally everybody else on this show, but I'm Predator over RoboCop as well.
See, the thing about I love Predator too. I mean, I'm saying like just because RoboCop's a perfect movie doesn't mean you can't like Predator as well. Yeah,
it's not like Elvis and the Beatles.
Yeah.
Come on.
No, the thing about Predator that I love so much is that like it's just a straight up action movie in the beginning, and then it's like, oh, what the fuck is this? And then the end of that, the third act of that movie is one of the most perfect third acts of all time. And I have on my phone saved forever the moment where Schwarzenegger screams as he like puts up the torch to be like, the games have begun. Like that scream he gives is like, that is when like you hit puberty when Schwarzenegger screams. It's the best. That's how every metal album should start with.
Schwarzenegger's scream caused the balls to drop on all the young men.
And now the games begin. The Predator. No, my thing is like
I was like 9 months when that movie came out, so my balls have been out for like a while.
My balls dropped in infancy because Predator was on in the background.
I think I saw that movie in the theater, guys.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to make you feel.
Oh man, I would have loved it. No, I mean I
think I saw it in the theater.
The Predator is like one of the best designs for a character ever. Like I'm always like it's just the fucking best looking thing.
Kyle, what would you've done a period piece, which even as a not period piece fan, you've subverted the action movie to put on my brainy glasses with. Multiple times, actually, with kind of like with Kill 'Em All and Sex Castle. Certainly, you're doing the zombie post-apocalyptic zombie epic with Dead of Winter. You're doing, the animated crazy sci-fi with Rick and Morty. What genre would you tackle next?
I mean, clearly, I love action comedy so much because I think the action it's such a small group of action comedies that are actually like authentically funny and actiony. You know what I mean? Because I always feel like they're like sort of half-paced. Does that make sense?
Yeah, they're like one or the other, or they sacrifice both.
Yeah, yeah. If they're both, like they're kind of slow and they're only like sort of funny and sort of actiony. They're not like balls to the walls. Like I love that. I love making that thing that I want so badly to exist in the world. I have a book I'm going to hopefully work on this summer, though. I don't look. Hey guys, you know what? Look, spoilers. Cal Stark spoilers. I really want to do. I've been sitting on it for a couple of years. It's actually the book I was going to do after Sex Castle. I really want to do a book that is ostensibly Dr. Julius Erving versus Dracula.
Oh wow!
I want to do it very badly. This past winter, I came up with a Christmas action movie. I want to do. When I say movie, I mean theatrically. I want to do the book, but in my head they're always movies because that's how I see them. I want to do a Christmas action very badly, which is like not like Die Hard. It's Christmas and it's action, which by the way is a Christmas movie. Everyone can eat my dick. Straight up an action movie with like the North Pole.
So like that Weird Al song.
Yeah, like there'd be elves but there'd also be like like cross arm breakers. I'm way into both of those. I think my plan is this summer because I actually did the first half of that book, and I felt like there was so much pressure on me because everyone sort of liked Sex Castle, and I didn't expect that. But I was like, oh, well, I should do something good.
You got nominated for an Eisner.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know Sex Castle. I mean, but like my expectations. Like I had no expectations for comic books to be a thing for me. I did a book called Legend of Ricky Thunder, which is a pro wrestling comic. I did just because I was having kids, and I wanted to do that thing I never did. I wanted to finish a book, right? Mm-hmm. I wanted to start a book and finish a book, and people found it. I didn't advertise it. I didn't talk about it. I didn't try to get interviews. People just found it, and I found through that process of doing that book that I really like telling stories sequentially. Like this is how I like to tell stories. I really enjoy the process of doing it, especially when I'm drawing them. It's just something that it fills my heart. I know that's cheesy. Like I'm not doing hyperbole or anything. Like whenever I draw like I can be in the worst mood, and my wife will attest for this, especially with Rock Candy Mountain. Like I was in the crappiest mood. It's like, well, I got to start this book, and part of it being crappy is like I'm so upset about how I want it to be good, and I'm worried it won't be good, and all this sort of subconscious stuff. Anyway, I'm tangenting. Anyway, I draw 10 pages, and I'm great. I love it, right? Mm-hmm. So Sex Castle was the same thing. Like I found I really love telling stories this way. So I was like, oh, I'm going to do another one. I hope the same 500 people like this one. And, then it got me Rick and Morty, and it got me Rock Candy Mountain, and all that stuff got me, Dead of Winter. Like my whole career is based on I really enjoyed making these books, and now I'm here. It was never the plan. But anyway, so I did Sex Castle, and the next book I started because at that time I felt like I was sort of dancing and nobody was looking. Is this book, which is about an ex-pro basketball player versus Dracula, called Old Head, which is a very good name for a book. And I just feel the same way. Like my concerns about it then are kind of the same now. Is that it's maybe a little too weird, and because of that, it's not going to do well. But it's like at this point, like it's a story I wanted to tell 4 or 5 years ago. I think I want to tell it now. So I'm going to try to figure out how to do that this summer. And if schedule permits, start on that Christmas book. Cause I think that Christmas book's going to be real good too. Lots of punching and snow. That's classic.
You could always team up. Just team up Santa Claus. Well, I was going to think like, so you've got this horror action book where it could basically be like fucking old school basketball players taking on the entire Universal Monster Mash, and then you've got a North Pole Christmas book. Like team them up with like do what they do in like Grindhouse Cinema. Team them up with like El Santo or something.
Oh man, I wonder if I get the El Santo right.
Yeah. Nondescript lucha libre wrestler.
Yeah, I think that North Pole book's gonna be like sudden death, but in the North Pole.
It's just like
it's gonna be real good. Yeah, because I don't want to get into it. Anyway, those are my plans. I know that I'm talking to Oni wants to do basically a second season of Dead of Winter. and I love writing that good dog boy, and I love the zombie genre. I always have. I was not one of those people that when it became wildly popular, I was like, oh man, they're taking zombies away. They're not fun anymore. I was like, man, zombies are cool. I'm glad there's more of it.
And now you get to play with those toys now, and with a superhero cape wearing dog.
Yeah, Sparky is a good dog.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like that's the, I can't.
I guess that's sort of horror. I guess I'm already doing horror, right? I think the zombies is like its own genre, though. Like it's not like zombie movies aren't regularly scary, are they?
I mean, there's the occasional jump scare, but it's more like
that's about it. Yeah,
it's more just the creeping existential like arrival of death.
Look, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like the thing about zombie movies is that the reason why they're scary is because it's their impending death. It's just having like all zombie movies do, not all. But the thing that's scary about zombie movies is that there's an inescapable death. It's just dealing with your own mortality. It's the like anthropomorphic mortality.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's that.
Right.
That's what.
But like, there's jump scares in 9 to 5. You know what I mean? Like, I would put that in a 9 to 5 is so good, by the way, guys.
Oh,
it's so good.
I agree.
It's a winner. So,
but yeah, I guess I've already done horror. But I think I would like to, with Old Head, it's only lightly horror because it's still going to be funny and punchy. So I feel like any sort of genre, like I haven't done a sci-fi thing yet. Right? Have I? No.
I mean, Rick and Morty argue like tangentially.
Yeah, but I mean, I write for that, but it's not mine. It's not my creation. And I love Rick and Morty. I feel like every time I say that, it's like I'm disparaging it, but I love that show. It's an honor to work on it. It pays my bills. It takes me to Mexico. I love the fans. I've never had a bad fan experience. But the reason why I haven't done sci-fi is because I'm not that good of a designer. Like I think that you have to be really good at designing to build those sort of worlds. I want to do all of them, man. I want to do sci-fi. I want to do a Western. I want to do like a Dungeons and Dragons book. That'd be fun.
Oh my God, yeah. Just like
a wizard named like Shitbird. My God, I want it so bad.
Kung Fu Knights.
Please.
Oh my God. Well, Kyle, you've been on the receiving end of this question before, but I feel obliged to ask, as I always do. What are you currently geeking out over?
Man, you know what? I'm geeking out right now about not being on a plane for one weekend. That's pretty exciting to me. Otherwise, I'm way into Splatoon right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I've this week I've actually been distracted by Splatoon from PUBG Mobile. So I've been playing PUBG on my phone.
How is the mobile version? I've
only played the mobile version. Also, whoever has the rights to PUBG, please get at me. That would be a good Kyle Starks comic.
Oh, it would.
Oh yeah.
As someone that plays the game, I can agree.
A publisher to get those rights, and they're like, it's too difficult. But hey, if you're listening, Chaboy could do some damage with some battle royale gun stuff. I watch people play it. It's great. I'm of the age where people go, why would you watch someone play video games? But I watch people play video games because I don't have time or inclination or money to do them, but I still want the experience. And PUBG is great for that because people will just play for hours, and you can always sort of empathically tell when you don't need to be paying attention, and then suddenly when you do, right? Mm-hmm. So it's great. That's great TV. That's why that game's so popular. And I feel like I'm getting the same effect. I've leveled up so much. I think I'm now playing with people who are actually good at playing it on the phone. So it's basically me hiding a lot and then dying a lot. But the game PUBG to me has the same sort of emotional resonance that Dead of Winter does, which is a board game, is that even though there's no narrative, it feels like there's one, right? I mean, there's a drama to it.
Yeah.
That's not just, gosh, I hope I don't die. It's like, it feels like you go on these journeys, like you're going from point A to point B, and you have to discover things along the way. Hopefully your friends don't suck, you know? Because the thing about the mobile thing is like it randomly pairs you with people for squads, and they're always the worst. They're just terrible dumbasses. And like, I don't know, man, it's like I like things like Dead of Winter that have implied narrative, because I get to make up my own narrative, and I love telling stories. That's a dumb thing to say. But it's true.
One thing that I'm really good at PUBG is picking my starting place. I have this uncanny knack of landing in a fairly uninhabited part of the island and like having a good trail to like the final whatever the hell it's called, the final, battle place.
Yeah, circle. The final circle.
Yeah, and I almost every game, even though I'm not that good at like actually like, fighting, I manage to get to like the final 10 just because I don't encounter anyone else. And they're all killing each other on different parts of the island. So I'm like, hey, I'm doing really well. And then suddenly I get to the place where it's impossible to not run into other people, and boom, I'm dead immediately because I'm no good. Yeah. But
that's kind of my experience right now.
But I still pat myself on the back for being able to make it that far into the game itself.
My current level of my current move right now in PUBG, my level is I go, yeah, now I got the guns I want. Listen, kid, it doesn't matter what guns you have. You're terrible at this game. So I was like, yeah, I got just the gun I want. Now you're all in trouble. No one's in trouble. Everyone's safe from me.
Yep.
But that's like in my head. Once I get to drop that shotgun, I got two rifles. I'm like, yeah, guys, watch out. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I have. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm just at some point I'm going to be squatting in a bush and someone's going to shoot me. That's every game.
I think. Go ahead.
No, the alternate is that like whoever's supposed to be on my team like drives off without me and the friggin' blue wall eats me.
Yeah,
that's my two number one deaths.
I can't even remember if I've actually killed anyone yet playing this game.
Damn.
Oh, you should play it on mobile because there's a bunch of bots on it and they really make you feel great.
yeah.
I get like 3 or 4 kills a game. I feel great. It's like how many of them are real people? I hope none of them, my dude.
Yeah, you stopped the robot at prison.
Yeah, I have to assume that they're bots because they do a lot of like, I shoot them and then they sort of look around. Like that's not, look, guys, you run is what happens when someone shoots at you. Run. Yeah. Like don't look around. It's like they just have to be bots. And I know there's a bunch of bots in the game because there's not enough people playing it.
Yeah.
So it makes you feel good. And you can always tell when you find the real people because they kill you. Like I don't see them. I don't know where they shoot me from. Sometimes I see them run up on my body and then shoot me again. If I like that because it gives me closure.
Yeah, just kind of to rub it in.
Yeah, but I like it though because it's like, yep, you got me. Way to go! And I see which direction they came from. I feel like people can see me and I can't see them. But also like it's just like Splatoon. Like I don't know if you guys like. There's a lot of like, do I have the control settings right? Would I be better if I did something differently with the controls? Which is, I guess is better than just like breaking the controllers all the time, like blaming it. I'm like, maybe I'm not using the right interface.
Yeah.
You're probably bad at this, dude. Probably what it is that you're bad. I can barely, like, my phone's too small. I think, are the guys beating me playing on an iPad? I bet they're playing on an iPad.
Some sort of tablet.
They're probably iPadding it.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. So, Kyle, I mean, again, you've got Rock Candy Mountain coming out at the time that this thing's posted. We'll have it up on Wednesday, so it'll post a week. But you've got it coming out on the 11th next week. You've got more Rick and Morty. You've got Dead of Winter's ending its first season.
Yeah, Dead of Winter trade comes out April 28th, I think, the end of this month. But if you're going to C2E2, you can get that boy early.
Oh.
Also, I'll have Rock and Mountain Volume 2 at C2E2. Mm-hmm. That's right, a week early.
Boom.
There you go. But the
sell them tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that you're working on other stuff. I know you can't necessarily say what it is, but any idea on when we can expect an announcement on, or ballpark on announcements on future Kyle Starks joints?
Yeah, my most exciting top secret project, I have a script due on April 7th. So I will assume somewhere within the next 2 or 3 months, hopefully. Hopefully it's good. That's my sincere hope on
Well,
I'm working on a project, and I'm not going to name names. I know it's the end of this thing or whatever. It's like I'm not drawing it, and it's not like Dead of Winter where Dead of Winter. Like I'm not going to say it doesn't matter because I love that book and I love everyone I worked with. It was a lot of fun, but like I didn't feel as much pressure because it's a book about dogfighting zombies. Like it can only be like it's only going to be fun. Like that's just going to be a fun book, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no great like. I mean, I think I got some stuff in there, guys. I got some good meaty heart stuff in there. But like I didn't feel as much pressure. And Rick of Morty's like I'm aping the tone, someone else's voice in a lot of ways. So this one, which I feel like is going to be my most visible project where people will care, and someone very, very good is drawing it, and it's making me very anxious. So I hope it's good. That's my sincere hope.
Knowing what I know, I can say without giving anything away, it is in fact top shelf artistic talent, and I think. When you and nondescript person, which I will not reveal other than top shelf talent, have the announcement, we'd love to have you guys back, and you would get the gift basket.
Oh my God, it'd be number 5. As soon as the announcement makes, I'm coming back.
Sweet.
I hope you are.
Which hopefully, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if they don't wait till New York.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised. When is that? September?
October.
October. Who knows? Who knows when things are?
Yeah. Well, it's not the first person that gets the gift basket that hits 5. It's everybody that hits 5 gets the gift basket.
When's San Diego? San Diego's August or July. I wouldn't be surprised if they wait till probably San Diego then. Hopefully.
Well, I hope that you're the first person to get number 5.
Cover.
Yeah,
there'll be a cover and some art by then. I would think.
Yeah. The
and hopefully I'm up in that joint, getting ready to celebrate my 5 Eisner nominations. 5 minimum is what I'm hoping for. For the work I did in 2000. Don't patronizing laugh at me. I want 5. I want 5 nominations. I expect to win 0 of them.
Joe Keating and I submitted our Eisner nomination for Best Translated Work from Europe for Beowulf like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
I don't even know if we'll get nominated. I mean, honestly, I didn't do that much with the book other than just swap the language with Joe. But that runs a good chance of maybe being the only Eisner nomination I would ever get. But hopefully,
then we can have a podcast with Eisner nominated Sam Stone.
Yeah, we already have Eisner nominated Kyle Starks.
It's true.
That's right. I don't want to win. I just want I want to be like the Susan Lucci of the Eisner.
You could be the Leonardo DiCaprio
or the Peter O'Toole.
I want to be nominated for Best Humor Publication every possible year that I can. I think this year I put out. Listen. 1, Rock Candy Mountain, Best Miniseries, right? Mm-hmm. Best Humor Publication, right? Best Single Issue, number 5. I think that's legit. I think that's legit.
Yeah. It's the most emotional.
Best Writer Artist.
Yeah.
I can't remember the other one. I can't remember what the other one was. But look, for Best Humor Publication, here's what I put out last year: Kill Them All, Dead of Winter, Rock Candy Mountain, and Rick and Morty. How do I not get like 3 nominations for Best Humor Publication?
Yeah.
I want to get 3 nominations in the same category and then not win. Because that's fucking funny, guys.
That happened to somebody at the Oscars. They were nominated for like 2 Academy Awards in the same. I want to say it was like Best Supporting or something. Might have been William H. Mason.
I don't know. I think if it was theater, if it was film, I'd be very upset if I didn't win. But I think if the category is like Best Stupid Thing, then it's funnier. I just want the nominations. I don't want to win because I think if I get, let's say they do Best Single Issue, right? Tom King won that. I don't know which one, but Tom King won. He's winning Best Single Issue, guys. If they put Rock Candy Mountain up for Best Miniseries, and I don't know if they will because Image has so many miniseries and they can only put so many.
Yeah.
But Donny Cates won Best Miniseries. You could pick the book. You know what I mean? Best New Series, Donny Cates won. You could pick the book. Best Writer Artist, there has to be someone better than me. There has to, which would be a weird, hey, remember what you said on that thing? If I do win, there has to be someone who did a better job writing and drawing. It'll always be like some indie book I didn't read because I'm too busy and I don't get it for free. Like, I don't expect to win. I just want to be nominated a bunch, because if I get a bunch of nominations, then people will buy my book, and that's all I really want.
I remember you said that there was quite the upswing when Sex Castle got the nod.
Yep, Sex Castle got the. Now there's some like gray area, because they also not like 2 months after the Eisner nomination, they announced that it had been optioned and that the Russo brothers were involved. So there's sort of a double hit, but it was like it was good. Like that, those things happening were good for that book. And I've optioned Rock Candy Mountain. I'm still waiting to get paid on that. That's neither here nor there. I optioned Kill Them All to Paramount, so I'm 3 for 3. Like I want these announcements because those sell books too. But I think, like, I don't know. For me, every year when it does, especially like best miniseries, best collected volume, best new series, usually I always read those books. I always go get the trade. If it's not one I haven't read, I always go get it, because if they're good enough to earn that nom, then they're good. They're good comics always. Mm-hmm. Kaiju Mac should win. Like, Kaiju Mac should win. Actually, Xander Cannon. That's who's better. Who's definitely John Allison. That's two guys who are better writer artists than I am, and also funnier than me. But yeah, I always get those books. It's like I think that goes for everything, especially if it's one of those sort of like, I'm doing quotes in the air, like those technical categories, like the categories that people don't get stoked about, like best SFX, which for comics is like best humor publication, or I'm not throwing shade, but like best translated volume, or best you know what I mean? Like, it's always like those things that are sort of at the bottom of the list that no one really cares that much about.
Again, it's the only way I'm going to get nominated. The only way.
Hey, you deserve it. You deserve it more than anybody. But those, no, I believe it. I think this is your year.
I won't even be able to make San Diego this year, so
it's all right.
Oh, no, if you get nominated, you have to go.
I'll accept on your behalf.
You have to go, and you have to translate whomever gives the acceptance speeches into another language.
The one year
they're talking.
The one year I went to the Eisners, Edward James Olmos was there.
The year I went, John Barrowman was there.
Ah, nice.
He's going to be at Awesome Con this weekend.
Yeah, I can't remember what I was saying. I just want those nominations, man, because they sell books. That's my point.
Right.
Like, you know what? As I said, like this wasn't like my plan. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. To like do this, but it's all I want to do. People like, oh, you should go. We should do Hollywood stuff. It's like I don't know. I really like having very few people involved with me being able to tell my story. But it's like, man, I just want people to read my story so bad. Like, winning an award would be so wild, but I know people buy those books if they get a nomination, and that's what I really want. I really want people to read my book, because if people read Rock Candy Mountain beginning to end. By the way, Volume 2 is only $15. If you're like, gosh, I don't know, like, what a deal! $25 for 300 pages of awesome comics.
Some of the best fights in comics.
Yeah, man. I think, like, it's so weird it didn't do well, because I thought the stores would be like, hey, I know you like it when people punch each other. Or do I have the book for you? Any Kyle Starks book, just line them up. I heard you like people when they punch each other. Is that true? Yeah, I like comic books. They're always punching. Let me tell you about Kyle Starks. He loves kickies and he loves jokies. Do you like those two things? Do you like dogs? Because there's a third option. But yeah, no, I think winning would be like so surreal. Like, but I want just like for this year, 2017, which I think everyone will agree was sort of a down year for comics, right? Don't you think?
Yeah. Seeing some of the numbers.
Outside of Donny Cates, there wasn't like that great book that came out this year.
I mean, numbers wise, it was a soft sales year. I think it was the softest sales year since 2011 or somewhere thereabouts.
Yeah, but I think that's because there was no Saga, there was no Southern Bastards, there was no Sex Criminals, there was no Paper Girls. There wasn't that book that comes out every year. There's one book that people get so excited about, they sort of buy all the tertiary books. Like, what else came out from them this month? I'm so excited about the new whatever. Outside, again, Donny Cates, who murdered this year and like sold his soul to something also.
Hobo Satan.
It was such a down year. It's like, this is the year, this is the year I deserve it. Come on, guys.
I think so too, man. I think so too. You're and I'm not just getting my nose brown. You've got I don't mean to sound like to tease the listeners and be like, I know who Kyle Starks is working with, but you've got something good coming up, and I can't wait to see issue 1 of it in full. So man, again, Kyle, you're always welcome on the show. We all hope that you get number 5, so we can finally give you.
Well, also the 3 things you have optioned. There's a good chance that the next 7,000 films that Bruce Willis makes, one of them might be one of your works, because his ratio is he's got to make another 7,000 in the next year?
Yeah,
2.
I heard from his agent that he's waiting for Fightland.
Oh my God. Just the League of Extraordinary Willises, where there's a Will, there's a Willis, and David Addison, and John McClane.
Right now, whenever that North Pole movie gets made, I want Bruce Willis to be under the beard.
Oh my God, it'd be so good. He looks good with the beard,
Bruce
by the
Willis
way.
Santa Claus.
Yeah, he looks good with the beard. Like, there's that movie Hostage on Netflix.
Yeah,
where the beginning of that movie is fucking amazing. Where he's kind of just like the chilled out, like long-haired, bearded negotiator. And he's like, no one dies today. And it's like kind of like cliffhanger for hostage movies. And then it kind of goes off the rails like cliffhanger. But like, yeah, more bearded Willis.
I'm down with it. I think Bruce Willis needs to try that, like the Triple H look, like bald head, big Spartan beard.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted to give it a shot. I just wanted him to take it for a spin. just take it for a ride.
He does that one movie. I haven't seen it. He does that movie. I think it's 16 Blocks, where he's like balding and has the beard, so he doesn't go like full on Willis.
I think he's just scruffy in it though.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
16 Blocks is the movie where I always go, what should I watch? I'm kind of in the mood for something action. Oh, I've seen all these. Oh, I haven't seen 16 Blocks. I got other stuff to do.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: the write-up for 16 Blocks is 100% my jam, and the reason why I don't watch it, because it's literally like, look, something bad happened. We have to take this guy through danger from point A to point B, which is also like a very 70s action movie premise, right?
Yeah.
Also slightly wuxia, to be honest with you. I love that setup. I love that we got to safely transport this guy, or we have to safely get from point A to point B. Because it's such a built-in drama, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to get through the gang territory, or you have to get through, I wish I could make a good Warriors reference, the 5th Street Ghosts or whatever.
They're going from a park in the Bronx to Coney Island.
Yeah, but they need to get past the orphans.
Yeah, the orphans. They're gonna mess that bit up in that movie. I know it. Otherwise, we'd talk about it.
Yeah. Well, Kyle, again, you're welcome on anytime. Always a fucking blast having you on. And again, Rock Candy Mountain Volume 2 out in comic book stores everywhere on Wednesday, April 11th. You can get Volume 1. You can get Kill 'Em All. You can get Sex Castle. You can get Rick and Morty. You can get Dead of Winter. Oh, my God.
$15 for that. $15 for that Volume 2.
And 10 for Volume 1. If $25. Yeah, just knock it out, man. And it's also available on Comixology if you're more digitally inclined. Kyle, thanks again for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's always a treat.
Old head. That's his. It's it's a book where a basketball player fights Dracula, and it's called Old Head. I hope he keeps that title because that's the greatest title of all time.
Oh yeah.
It is.
Well, thanks again to Kyle Starks for coming on our fine program.
It's always a pleasure, and then not to sound like like a stock phrase or anything, but like it literally is always a good time.
We were like, even you kiddies at home don't get this, but like even after we stopped running tape, we were still like hanging out with Kyle for like 30 minutes.
Yeah,
just shooting the breeze.
Yeah, he was having a good time. We were having a good time. I almost wish I had just turned on the recording again, but we talked about things that he's not allowed to talk about yet.
Yeah. What that we're not allowed to talk about.
That's true.
So, not allowed talk was had, but fun talk. Speaking of fun talk, did you boys get into anything this past week?
So I actually saw 2 movies this weekend.
Dos películas.
Sure. See. I I saw the Tomb Raider
with Alicia Vikander.
Yes, very good. It
and our man Walton Goggins.
I was about to say it had my boy. I had no idea that he was in it. So when he comes on screen, I was like, "Oh fuck, it's Walton Goggins!" Like I didn't actually yell it in the theater because I try to not talk in the movies anymore. But
scream, "Oh fuck."
That's like 2 steps down from yelling fire.
Yeah.
So frowned upon.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I was very excited to see him come on screen. But very very good, a very enjoyable movie. Very reminiscent of Last Crusade.
Oh, cool.
Which is our favorite of the Indiana Jones.
Only the penitent man shall pass.
Yeah, there was literally a scene that they said something along those lines, and I was like, oh, they have to kneel down and pray. That was not the answer to the riddle, which I guess maybe they themselves realized that they were picking a little too blatantly from Last Crusade. But I didn't see it in like a bad light, of like, oh, they saw a good story. I mean, I'm sure Last Crusade wasn't the first time that a man has gone to rescue his father, and shenanigans ensued, and Tomb Raider shan't be the last. But yeah, and also Tomb Raider in general has like a very Indiana Jones vibe to it.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it makes sense.
How did it stack up to the Angelina Jolie films? A lot less emphasis on being sexy, which I think was also one of the plans behind it, and that's fine because it was grounded, realistic.
Exactly, it very very much so trying to be as realistic as possible.
It looks like she gets beat to shit.
She does.
They put her through the ringer.
I haven't played any of the games, but I do have a couple friends who have Twitch streamed the newer games.
Mm-hmm. Jake, you've played the newer games, right?
I have, yeah. The like the reboot or whatever you want to call it, the 2013 one's fucking great.
Where like every 5 minutes she just gets brutally murdered.
If you suck,
yeah.
No, it's actually kind of there's some difficult stuff in it. But it's a super fun game. And then I'm playing. I think it's Rise of the Tomb Raider is the sequel that I'm making my way through slowly. But
you're making your way downtown.
Yeah, but it's great. Freaking, that's a great reboot.
Yeah, there were some action sequences in this movie that looked like they were pulled directly from those games. Even to the point of like camera angles while like she's running while like the bridge is falling behind her, kind of shit. I will say the one thing that I wasn't crazy about was that there was a lot of extended periods of time where it felt like not a whole lot was happening. Like there were some good chunks of it where it was like, this is slow and kind of boring, and to the point where one of my friends that went with me said that she did not like the movie just because it was slow and boring, and I was like,
that's the biggest criticism I've heard so far.
But I feel like a lot of the times where shit is happening makes up for it. Not like overly makes up for it. Where I was like, I didn't even notice that it was slow, because it was definitely, there was some slow exposition scenes and shit like that. But like nothing pulled me out of the movie going, oh my god. Which, that's all I ask. Just don't pull me out of the movie. So that gets a thumbs up from me. Check it out on, cheap day if you need to. Movie Pass like me if you want. And then I also saw the new Pacific Rim.
Oh!
Uprising.
With our man Eastwood.
Yeah.
Not Clint.
No, Scott. And John Boyega.
And Charlie Day.
Yes, that's true. He comes back, and so does
Vern Gorman.
The guy that plays his counterpart in the first movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I didn't have huge expectations for it, but then again, I didn't really have huge expectations for the first movie.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the deal.
Yeah, just a live action monster, slash giant robot movie. I'm not expecting a whole lot, especially from an American company, because that's more of a, like, Japan's bag. But like they delivered an entertaining, a romp in action, not comedy. Although there's a fair amount of comedy as well because Charlie Day's in it.
How's my man Eastwood?
He's really good. I thoroughly enjoyed him.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
He plays the straight man, as you would probably imagine.
He always plays the straight man.
Even in Suicide Squad, he was the straight man.
Yeah. Also, Fate of the Furious.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's very. Jake has been less generous with Eastwood.
Well, because
analysis.
he puts him on such a high pedestal.
Yeah. I mean, he's maybe not the most magnetic actor for Master Bosa.
He's not Jake's favorite Eastwood.
Well, I would agree with that. Yeah.
But no, he's
just like Chuck Knobloch's like my favorite Yankee.
Baseball's back, baby.
I feel like there's more Yankees to choose from, though.
I don't know. There's a lot of Eastwoods.
Are there? I only know of the two. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty more.
There's plenty of progeny out there.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so like I feel like they did a decent job of continuing the story. I was a little sad that there was no Ron Perlman in this one, but I also, didn't expect him to come back. But yeah, the way that they progressed the story with like Charlie Day's character was really interesting. I thought that he and Byrne were just going to come back and just be them again, and it was just going to be a rehashing, but they actually progressed, they had character development, and then the other actor to come back from the first one, I forget her character's name. I feel bad, but she's the
Rinko.
Asian. Yeah,
Rinko. That's her character's name is like Miko, but the actress's name is Rinko.
Yeah, the girl that Idris Elba's character adopts as his daughter. She is now like high-ranking official. And then you got John Boyega, who plays Idris Elba's birth son.
You know how fucking wild it is that Pacific Rim is like 5 years old,
right? The events took place 10 years ago in universe. But yeah, so John Boyega plays like a child of the
Stacker Pentecost.
Well, yes, but the apocalypse. but in more of he was raised by this new kind of almost post-apocalyptic world. Everything's changed because of the kaiju. But he's just out there. Like almost like a Han Solo type character, just in it for himself, in it for the not the money per se, but like he smuggles, he deals, he stuff like that, and because of his heritage, he gets roped into helping out with the new enlistment, the new need for Jaeger pilots and stuff like that, and he runs into this little scrapyard child who has built her own Jaeger, like small Jaeger, like maybe twice my height,
like a Robo Sapien.
Sure.
Remember those weird little like white robot things?
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, but yeah, on a slightly bigger scale, like both she and John Boyega are able to fit inside its chest cavity. Yeah. But like but it's so small that like. She's the only one that's needed to pilot it. Doesn't need to do the dual piloting. Don't worry, you still get plenty of the big ones that do need the dual, and even the one that needs the 3 pilots.
Oh,
yeah.
There's only one of those in the first film.
Yeah, there's only one in the second film as well.
Okay.
The third one is used to control its like extra
Anus.
weapons.
Okay.
Yes, it's anus. And also, there's a set piece that takes place, I believe it's in Tokyo, where they have the Gundam statue.
Oh,
it's
nice.
featured in the movie, and I was like, ah,
yeah.
But yeah, no, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I expect no less from a summer, even though it's not really summer, action blockbuster popcorn movie.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's all it was. That's all it tried to be.
Good.
Yeah.
I don't want my Gone with the Wind with Jaeger yet.
Yeah, right? I don't need that.
Not yet.
Gone with the Jaeger.
Yeah. Where'd they go?
That sounds like what someone says after they graduate college. They're gone with the Jaeger. Jägermeister.
That was me during college.
Yeah. You have that epiphany.
Yeah.
Oh, no mas.
Yeah. I don't think I've had... No, I'm sure I've had Jägermeister since college, to my chagrin. Jake.
Jake,
talked
when was
about
the last
it,
time you had Jägermeister?
Yesterday. I talked about it with, I don't know. I talked about it on the interview, but I've been getting into moonlighting. I've been moonlighting, baby. No, the TV series, the wonderful TV series. It's always, I've always heard it, like, interesting things about it. Like Kevin Smith talks about it, like his love for it a lot, and how that show really kind of like changed a lot of shit with TV. And it's really fun. I feel like Chris, especially if you've never watched it, you would fucking love the shit out of it.
I've been circling around it, much like you were before you.
Once I finish season 1, I'll let you borrow it.
Right.
There's like Bruce Willis. Like there's some stuff that I'm like, oh, this is totally up Chris's alley. Like some really fucking clever. Like there's like little like throwaway lines that just had me laughing. Where like a character, like they open the elevator and a character's like been stabbed through the back with a knife and like falls down dead, and Sybil Shepherd's like like screams, and Bruce Willis is like, God, that's gotta hurt falling in your nose like that, and like he's like just dead. He's dead.
So you would say it's hilarious.
Oh, it's hilarious. It's so that's all I've been doing. I've been enjoying that.
During the interview, I wanted to ask you, but I tried to stay on track as much as possible.
That interview, you've listened to that. You were there for that interview.
But when you were talking about like your Ant-Man.
Oh yeah, also I'm obsessed with shrinking people.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, but I felt that this would carry us down far too many rabbit holes, and I think we had already hit the hour-and-a-half mark. Have you seen Downsizing with Matt Damon?
No, because there's no superheroes involved.
Okay.
I don't know. It's got Christoph Waltz.
No, does it? No, I mean, it's I don't know what
the Humperdinck himself.
Yeah. I have not. I might rent. That's one of those ones I'll probably rent one of these days.
Yeah. It's gotten nothing but terrible
Oh,
reviews.
great.
I steered clear of it because of like the negative.
No,
feedback
speaking of
that, and also I saw like a full trailer, and I was like, oh, it doesn't seem like what the original trailer.
Yeah, I heard like the trailer doesn't. It's a complete like it shifts, tonal shift.
The final trailer. I was like, oh, this is a completely different movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of brilliant minds that can shrink, this blew my fucking mind. And Sam saw it happen. They've been making these like Batman noir books for Dark Knight Returns. They did one for Hush, I believe. Other books. I think they did one for like some of the Snyder stuff. Did they do a Long Halloween one?
They definitely did Court of Owls. They definitely did Hush. They definitely did both Dark Knight books. I feel like they Long Halloween's that, and I feel like they did that and Dark
already noir-y.
Yeah, but like it's literally just a black and white book. So like,
I feel like they did that and Dark Victory.
Yeah. So they did the fucking Dark Knight Strikes Again, which is like holy fuck. Like I was thinking about that recently. I was like, man, it bums me out that like that book doesn't have like obviously it wasn't held to the acclaim that Dark Knight Returns was, and that's understandable because Dark Knight Returns is like
and
next
all
level
that
shit.
Mess with like September 11th kind of screwing it up.
I don't think most people even realize that that fucking like that is
certainly certainly now.
Yeah.
Well, like, didn't that delay the final issue like a couple months or something like that? And I think
it was issue. Was it issue? Was it the final issue where LexCorp Tower gets the?
It's issue 2, and then I think it's issue 2 where he says he flies the Batwing into LexCorp Tower, and he's like striking terror, best part of the job, and then he says it later on in the book. But the story I always heard is that Frank Miller made it a reactionary piece. Then, like he kind of changed the whole thing of the story. But it's mostly just it's a sequel to one of the greatest comic book, one of just great stories of all time, and it drastically is different because Frank Miller and Lynn Varley and Klaus Janson, like they all want to do their own shit and they went fucking nuts, and I love it for that. But I never expected this.
They went bold.
Yeah, they did. I never expected this. They fucking did a Batman noir of that, and I lost my fucking mind. I was like, holy fuck.
We had bought in our like haul. and we're like on the way out.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, I am reaching for the door, and Jake just goes, "Oh fuck," because he sees
like me in the movie when Walton Goggins comes on.
exactly,
Yeah.
and just like, what's this? And like,
Oh no, I knew what that shit was, but I was like, I couldn't believe that they did it because, like, again, I know how much that book means to me, but no one else gives a shit. And I was like, I can't believe they did that. Like, I don't expect to see Dark Knight Strikes Again like reprinted as anything, because again, it's
packaged it with returns for the Absolute.
yeah
edition.
for the Dark Knight Saga, a nice hardcover they did as well.
So is it full on black and white?
Yeah,
Interesting.
just black and
Because
white.
I remember there being a lot of like crazy colors.
Oh, there's definitely some panels that don't work at all in the
Okay.
noir one because
It's just like an old like Xerox copy of it.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a testament to the colors that Lynn Varley gives to it. I mean, there's some just gorgeous panels, and they're completely lost because it's just. And again, Frank Miller didn't create this to be like one day there'll be a noir book version of it.
Yes,
but
Father, I will become a
yeah,
noir
the
book.
noir version. But it shows, I think, the importance of how and that's obvious with the colors with books, but especially her work on that book. And there's some panels that are really interesting because again, they are not afraid to use negative space. Like Frank Miller is not afraid to have like an entire page in the bottom right corner is like fucking Hank Pym, tiny going, I'm the best, or having like Batman and Superman tiny in the middle, and there's like a great shot of Shazam.
It's really impressive that he
holding
has
up,
Hank Pym.
Rebel. Yeah. Dark Knight Strikes Again is what got me back into shrinking mad scientists, brilliant men, because he writes the fuck out of Hank Pym in Dark Knight Strikes Again. He does some really cool shit with that. Also, he does the
Hank Pym.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ray Palmer.
There it is.
Yeah, Ray Palmer. But yeah, he.
I mean, he probably would if given the chance.
But he also does it in the. He does the like those mini comics in DK3, and he does like the first one's about the Atom. Really clever shit.
I still haven't read DK3.
I mean, now you can pick it up and read it in one fell swoop.
It's more accessible than Strikes Again.
Oh yeah, Strikes Again is what is the power of the Dark Knight Returns, because you're like, I'm gonna do this.
Frogman, Green Lantern,
Petri Dish, Ray Palmer,
I loved Petri Dish Ray Palmer. I thought that was a really
Cat
cool
Girl.
yeah.
introduction.
Yeah. Beat the fuck up Martian Manhunter, who can see like 3 seconds in the future, basically.
Yeah.
Dick Grayson,
Yeah.
Joker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Who
Dick
can
Gra-
get, like
Dick
his
Grayson.
head ripped off.
Yeah, he can't die. Yeah, they all have giant hands.
Yeah.
But also, like, I've said this a couple of times on the podcast, it has my favorite Batman moment of all time in it.
Which you got to talk to Frank Miller
I got
about.
to tell Frank Miller. I wonder, like, there's
Get
a
outta
moment.
here, kid.
Well, I wonder if there's a moment when I was like, you wrote my favorite Batman moment. He's like, oh, yeah, of course. And I was like, since Dark Knight Strikes Again, he's probably like, security! This madman.
You're the Josh Williamson kid.
Yeah, but yeah,
He's going to be at Awesome Con this weekend.
he is.
Oh.
Josh Williamson, not Frank Miller.
Yeah. We can walk past him and just mouth his name.
Josh Williamson. But yeah, it's a great Batman moment where he carves his Z into Lex Luthor's face, and it's because Frank Miller's really been a champion of this whole Zorro thing.
Yeah. Because he's always been a kind of a Golden Age Hollywood guy. You see it in Sin City. You see it in.
Oh yeah, is Miller the guy that made it Zorro?
No,
I don't think so.
No, because that had existed. What the fuck was it with the cult references it being Zorro? It had basic bottom line, the fact that it was Mark of Zorro had existed before.
Okay, fair enough. But he definitely reminds you with it. In Dark Knight Returns, it's on TV. Kind of has the flashback. In Dark Knight Strikes Again, of course, he finally gets to live his dream of being Zorro, which is such a perfect little moment. And you get a great. I think he writes Captain Marvel really well. Even though he's barely in it, but like the idea that he still refers, he still calls Wonder Woman "ma'am," and that line where he says it's nice, but it's what is it? It's nice to have existed is such a fucking powerful line for this guy because he's just a wish, And Wonder Woman's got the great line, which is like, "Say the word, warrior, go with the lion's roar."
And you prefer it being Captain Marvel and Billy Batson being separate identities?
I don't know actually, because I've read both where they've done both well. The wish fulfillment of this kid being basically Superman, is a great thing to read. But leave it to Frank Miller to give that idea where it's like, they switch. And then Billy Batson's that line was like, he's been dead for 8 years, so like when I go, that's it. I am this like this exhaust fumes of this wish, just living on borrowed time. It's interesting both ways. I think the way that we'll see for pretty much the movie, I'm assuming, and most other things will be he just becomes Captain Marvel, or I guess they'll call him Shazam, which is still silly to me. I know why they do it, but it's silly.
So while you were talking, I decided to look up the connection between Batman and Zorro.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually dates all the way back to Bill Finger.
Of course, yeah.
Being inspired by Douglas Fairbanks's Zorro, nice. Including even the Bat Cave,
mm-hmm.
because apparently there was a Zorro's cave.
Mm-hmm. Nice. I mean, that makes sense for the inspiration. I just wondered in terms of
mm-hmm.
The last thing he saw was the Mark of Zorro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And again, I'm curious. To when that was referenced for the first time.
The movie The Mark of Zorro came out in the 40s. So
mm-hmm. Yeah. The Tyrone Power.
Yeah,
that's a great movie. If you're looking for just a fucking great fun movie, that's one to watch along with The Adventures of Robin Hood. So do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Sam? You do anything this week? You thought you were going to get out of it.
I always think I'm going to get out of it. I'm Mr. Miracle, except I never escape. What have I done? So it's a post-snow day world.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I went to a couple parties. I'm getting ready for Awesome Con, as I'm sure we all are.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a panel by the time this episode airs.
Ooh.
The panel will already be done. So, so thanks for attending, or not, more likely. But that's my hometown crowd. I've noticed something. I was hanging out with a friend at an IHOP in DC over the weekend, and DC IHOPs are more expensive than our Virginia IHOPs. I live, and Jake and Chris knows this, I live within walking distance of an IHOP, so, and we're all IHOP aficionados here on the show. There's like a city ordinance or something. I remember getting the check, and I was like, what the fuck? It's that kind of like, wait a minute, I didn't get any other sides.
Even when I lived in New York, Popeyes was more expensive than down here.
Yeah,
and you didn't get the same combos.
Oh, I didn't know I'm not shocked, but it is kind of surprising that there are region specific.
Well, the big thing is that you know how at Popeyes you kind of have the option between combo or platter.
Yes,
platter typically you get 2 sides. There was no platters in New York City.
Of course not.
Yeah, fuckers. I need my double fries.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're IHOP in DC.
No, I was just kind of like, because all I got was a fucking omelet, and I was like, why the fuck is this in a coffee?
Double digits.
Well, it's always double digits, but I was just like, huh?
So many double digits.
Yeah. Also, late night menu, which is always a little pricier.
I think they bump up the price a couple bucks.
That's my big takeaway. Just hanging out in Columbia Heights, actually not that far from friend of the show Vernon's place. So that happened. Surely I did something more exciting than parties and IHOP, but honest to God, did I just do parties and IHOP? Did I do anything to a guest lecture today? That's why I'm all dressed up like a fop. I'm gonna bring that back. Calling people fops. Yeah. Or foppish. See how long that lasts.
Is it moddy?
The difference is if something's moddy, it's actually it's mod. You're mod. You're cool. If you're a fop, you're a dandy.
So you're like a space dandy.
Like the Third Doctor?
I was thinking of, there's an anime.
Oh.
I think it's called Space Dandy.
Okay, because the First Doctor referred, that one time he met the Third Doctor, called him a dandy fop.
I could see it.
He's like, I didn't think I would regenerate into a dandy fop. And he's like, fuck you.
Yep. Sounds like the BBC to me.
Yep. BBC One, baby.
In like 1972-ish, whatever it is.
About right.
Yeah.
It's about right.
I think the series started in like 66, 68.
63.
63?
Yeah, it's pretty old, actually, yeah. I remember once.
I know it's black and white.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks again to Kyle Starks for coming on the show for 4 times now.
Mm-hmm.
What I swear to you, we do literally have. In fact, once we go off mic, I'll tell Jake and Chris exactly what belongs in that basket for Kyle, because it's really only a matter of time until he comes back.
If you want to know what's in the basket, tweet at him to tell him to get another project so he has a reason to come on the show.
I mean, I already.
I mean, he's basically a friend of the show. He can come on whenever he wants.
Yeah. He's the what do we call them, Jake? The Holy Five. That was
what we call them. I don't know.
Isn't that what McCartney would call the Beatles songs that he'd play while he was in Wings?
Oh, I don't. Yeah, there was like 5 that he would do.
Know what?
I'm not sure.
YouTube commenters, tell us what Paul McCartney would call the.
By the way, YouTube commenters, seen Annie Hall. I don't take my love advice from Annie Hall. I hope you listen to that.
So confrontational.
Is it though? Calling me out? Is it any more confrontational than the one guy on our YouTube channel that's always like, well, you fucked this one up?
God.
But you know what? He's my favorite.
I wonder, I haven't paid enough attention. I wonder if it's the same guy. Because I just read the comments. I'm like, well, they do not like your analysis of the Beatles.
There are days where I don't like my analysis of the Beatles, so I'm right there with you.
Same.
Yeah, right there with you, buddy. But we're not here to talk about the Beatles. We're here to talk about Rock Candy Mountain out April 11th in comic book stores everywhere and on Comixology. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake. Thank you very much.
Good night, Eric Pana.
This has been another Geek Out production. If you enjoyed what you heard, hey, we've got a special episode every Friday. Of course, there's the usual catching up show every Wednesday. And you get book club episodes just about every Tuesday these days. Thanks for listening.